Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, Adi Klevit here, the host of the System Simplified podcast, where I feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And today's episode is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group, where we create, document, optimize, and implement processes and procedures so businesses can grow and thrive. And today's guest is Brooke Lively. Hi, Brooke.
Hi, how are you?
Doing great. How are you doing?
I am awesome.
Great. And I'm happy to hear that. Now, Brooke and I met a few years ago, and I listened to one of her talks. I mean, we are both part of the Entrepreneurs Organization, EO, and she came to our chapter and gave an amazing talk about finance, about money, about basically from her role as a CFO that helps businesses. And as you can see in the background, for those of you that are actually watching, she has like this amazing plaque or banner that actually picture that has all these different money words, right? How we refer to money. So money is definitely a subject that has many words. And Brooke, I'm gonna give a little bit more of your bio, and then we're gonna jump into our conversation, which I'm really excited about. So since 2013, you and your team, you have helped hundreds of firms make data-driven decisions to drive faster growth and more predictability in their businesses. So you're very much into the data-driven method or way of actually looking at the business, which is so important. I'm with you on that. So as a CFO, you look at every part of the firm that touches the money. And that's the whole firm, right? Because every part of the firm touches money from the beginning to the end.
Mm-hmm.
And, so eventually you became an EOS implementer, which is what you are right now, but you also have your CFO firm. But you work yourself out of a job, which I know our listeners want to know how that can happen because that's what they want to work towards. And I know that by working with you and understanding how the money flows throughout the organization and basically making decisions that are based on data, they can also do the same. So we're going to talk about that. But now, as an EOS implementer, you basically help firms gain clarity on their vision, discipline, and accountability to increase traction and develop a healthy, functional team. So that's the other aspect of the business, which is amazing. So Brooke, this is your bio, amazing conversation, but let's start with your journey. So how did you even become a CFO?
Oh, that totally by accident. Like, this was not my path. I was working at a hedge fund, and my father shed his partners and lost the woman who ran his company and had for years and years and years. And so he needed some help. And the hedge fund I was working for said, we don't care where you are, because I was an analyst. I could analyze from anywhere. So I analyzed from his office 3 days a week and from their office 2 days a week. And I helped him spin his firm back up, start a new firm, spin it up to $1 million a year in, under a year. And ultimately quit the hedge fund, just worked for my family. And we hired someone to help with sales and marketing. And his clients came to me and said, can you do for us what you do for your family? And that was when I really started to understand that business owners weren't running their businesses based on the numbers. They were doing it on gut instinct. And that is scary and hard. And there's a lot of profit that falls by the wayside that doesn't end up in your pocket. And so I started CathCap as a result, so that I could meet the need of those smaller businesses. If you think about it, small businesses are something like 80% of the US economy.
Mm-hmm.
We power 80% of the US economy. And yet it is only those giant multinational companies that have a CFO, that have that strategic financial insight. And that's not fair.
No, no.
The 80% needs it. And so, I wanted more people to be able to have that.
Absolutely. So Brooke, explain to us what a CFO does, because you have a great way to use words and explain things. So how would you explain what a CFO does?
That's so funny. My COO was here yesterday, and we were having a discussion. How do you define a CFO? Because they can do a lot of different things. But for us, a CFO is that person that sits at the table that has interdisciplinary knowledge that can help you look down on your business and see how all the different parts work together. Can help you understand how, if we change this in production, this is what's going to need to change in staffing. And this is how we're going to have to pay for it.
Wow.
It's all about the interrelatedness of your business.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So do you feel like small businesses, you said they need it, and I agree with you. Why would they think that they don't?
They don't think they're big enough. They don't think they're complicated enough. They usually just, they think, well, I'm doing okay. I'm fine. And they don't realize that there's so much more that they could be doing. They could be growing faster if that's what they want. They could be becoming more profitable. Not everybody wants the same thing out of their business.
So let's
And
talk about growing faster. I like that one. So if you meet with a client and they say, okay, I want to grow faster, what would you do in order to help them grow faster?
so we're going to look at whatever it is that they sell, because we're all selling something, right? We may be selling a product, we may be selling a service, but we're selling something. So we're going to look at whatever it is that we're selling, and we're going to analyze it and see what kind of profit margin we have on it. How much does it cost to produce? And how much are we selling it for? Do we have a good margin? Which ones are profitable? Which ones aren't? How do we need to make that, or how can we make that more profitable? Is it by restructuring the comp system for everyone that's making it? Is it by raising the price? Is it by finding lower cost input goods? Like, do we need to go find a new supplier? Is it that the people, if you're selling a service, is it that the people who are providing the service, we're not expecting enough out of them? And what combination of those things is it?
Right.
So we're going to look at that. We're going to look at things like your collections. Are you collecting all the money you're owed? There's nothing worse. The average law firm collects somewhere between 75 and 85% of everything that they bill.
Wow.
So let's just say 80%. They work Monday through Thursday and get paid. And on Friday, they all haul their rear ends into the office and work all day on Friday for no reason, because they're not going to get paid for it. But the owner is still paying all the people to come in and work.
Right.
So, what do we have to do? So what products and services do we need to reprice or stop offering?
Or collect up, some collection up front, or whatnot. Handle
How
the
do we need
process.
how do we need to rewrite contracts so that we get paid differently? How do we need to change the marketing? Which marketing's working, which marketing isn't? Do we need to take marketing money from here and put it there because that's going to boost, because we get a better ROI on this kind of marketing.
Right.
And that one really that we think is great, when we do the analysis, it sends us a ton of leads, but none of those leads pan out. And all it does is keep our salespeople busy chasing their tails. And actually, if we cut out that entire type of marketing, we can also fire one of our 5 salespeople and save ourselves a bunch of money.
Right.
Because 20% of our salespeople's time is spent chasing bad leads.
Right.
So you see how all those things are kind of interconnected?
Yeah, totally. They are totally interconnected, and they totally make sense that you look at it. So definitely that's a way to help, and that's a way to look at. How do you enforce some kind of an accountability or create an accountability system? So once you actually figure out what needs to be done, so there is continuity and they continue to actually do it.
So that is fascinating. We, and that's where EOS comes in, actually. So we have run on EOS as a company for about 10 years. I had someone.
Listeners that don't know what EOS is, why don't you explain?
EOS is the entrepreneurial operating system. And I was given a book by this woman. I was at a networking breakfast and she got up, she talked about EOS, and then she gave everybody a book. She said, this book is life-changing. And I got to tell you, I thought she was high. I'm like, a book cannot be life-changing. And so it rode around in the backseat of my car for, I don't know, 6 or 8 months. And finally, enough people talked about this book that I read it. And she was right. It was life-changing. So I read the book and I implemented it in our company, and it made a difference. And we loved it. And that was about all we thought about it. You know, it worked for us. But then we started analyzing our clients, and we started looking at them, and we started looking at the clients who were doing okay working with us. There were clients who were doing really well working with us. And then there were the clients that had like just hockey stick results, right? Just everything was clicking for them. And we're like, okay, what are we doing differently between these 3 buckets of clients? Because obviously we want all of our clients to have those incredible results. And so we researched, and what we found was the hockey stick clients were taking action on everything we told them to do.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, huh, okay. So it's execution that makes the difference. And then we dug a little deeper, and we found that every single one of those companies, but one, ran on EOS.
Mm.
And we were floored. Now, the one company that did not run on EOS was run by a lieutenant colonel from the military. And everyone that works for him is either ex-military or a military spouse. So
I guess the common denominator is that there was some kind of a discipline, some kind of a system, and it's not running by the seat of your pants, but it's actually getting it done.
Yeah. So you asked how we got accountability, and the accountability really has to come from within the company.
Yeah.
But we found that EOS gave them that accountability. And so EOS became our #1 outgoing referral, because when we saw companies that weren't achieving what we thought they should be achieving, because we can see, you know, if we tweak this and we do that, and we do this other thing, these are the results that we should see. And when the changes weren't happening, we knew they weren't making the adjustments.
That's a beautiful segue of those two and the combination of those two, because, you know, I encountered that as well in terms of like the way that I actually pivoted my company to do what we do today is because I started as a general business consultant, you know, and I would tell people you need processes week after week after week. But then they nodded their head, yes, we know we need it. They just didn't have the time or the know-how how to do it. So they said, what about if I do it for you? Really? Yes. And that's how it started. And that's how it grew, because we know, I mean, processes are part of EOS. People have to have processes, but, and it's you know, the accounting, the finance, the CFO work that you do has to be part of every business. But how do you actually ensure the accountability? And that is, I can totally see by implementing a very specific system that will do it.
Yeah. We just needed the accountability. We needed people to execute. You know, there's that great story that, or analogy that people use. There are two teams playing basketball, and they're playing each other. One team sinks 90% of the shots they take. The other team sinks 50% of the shots they take. Who's going to win the game? Well, the question is, how many shots does each team take?
Mm-hmm.
The team that sinks half their shots takes 100 shots per game. They shoot at every opportunity. The team that sinks 90% of their shots only waits for the perfect opportunity, and they only shoot 10 times. So the less accurate people have 50 points, and the really accurate people have 9.
Okay. Yeah.
Who's going to win the game? It's all about taking the action and taking the chance. You can make the shot. You can take the shot, and if you don't make it, you just take another one. You make that decision. If it doesn't work out, we can make another decision. We can take another action.
That's
But
for sure.
inaction will absolutely kill you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a really, really good analogy, because you just have to be there playing and trying and going for it, and, you know, take the risk. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But if you don't, I mean, it's like in sales, you know, it's a numbers game. You know, if you are going to, you can have a 50% close because you talk to 2 leads and close 1, but you can have, let's say, a 40% close, but you talk to 20 leads, and you definitely have more clients that way. So yes, absolutely. It is definitely the opportunities and the missed opportunities. So Brooke, how did you work yourself out of a job as the CFO?
So I told you that we run on EOS, and we had self-implemented for a few years, and eventually we were growing, and we weren't self-implementing very well. And through the wonders of EO, I actually knew Gino Wickman, and so I sent him this email that was like pages long. And I was like, I've got this going on, and I've got this going on, and I've got this going on. And he wrote back, he was like, it would take me all day just to unravel this email. And I'm like, game on, Gino, how much? He's like, haha, nice try. Answer these questions, and I'm going to give you the right implementer. And he did. And so we started working with an implementer out of Indiana, and he's great. And during this time period, I also hired a COO. Actually, I didn't hire her, I promoted her. And in EOS, we call them integrators. Their job is to work with all the heads of your departments to make sure that they are all doing their jobs. They're all working together. And the reason why this person's so important is because as a founder, I have a really short attention span. I don't do great with process. I'm like, seriously? Like, I'm like, there's a process for that. Can't I just reinvent the wheel? And I come up with 42 good ideas every hour. And I go to a conference and I come back and I want to change everything. And I'm sure some of you listening to this are like, oh, yeah, I resemble that remark, right? Problem is that you're yanking your team all over the place.
You are.
And so putting this implementer in place gives your team the stability, and they can kind of say, oh, those are 42 great ideas. Let's write them down And then we'll talk about them next week. Well, next week, you don't care about.
Oh, there are another 57 that came in during the week.
There are another 57 that came in, and those 42, like you look at them, you're like, yeah, I don't care about those anymore because I'm on to these. And so it's an amazing thing. And they start to take on all those tasks and those responsibilities that a lot of founders, and we call them visionaries, really don't like to do. I'm not great at managing people. I don't like having the hard conversations. I'm not good at working on a project through until completion for a long time. I am, all these things. She is good at those things. She is good at making sure that happens. I mean, we definitely went through a period of time where the only thing my integrator said to me was, there is a form for that. And I'm like, oh my God, we now have a process for everything, which made me crazy, but it made my team so happy because everything got done the same way every time, right? And she took these day-to-day responsibilities off of my shoulders that really just kind of ground me down. They were the things that drained my energy. And I was able to do the things that I loved. I was able to do things like this. And eventually, she took so much off my plate that I didn't have anything left to do. So
amazing, Brooke. Well done. That is the aspiration of many entrepreneurs, and I admire you and salute you for that, because that is a very, very great goal.
Yeah, I still show up. I give about 1 day a week to that company, and whether it's doing marketing things or serving as their visionary and working on the direction of the company and new products and things, I'm still involved.
Of course.
But I don't have day-to-day responsibilities.
That is incredible.
That is lovely.
Wow. Okay. So go ahead.
And I did it because of EOS. I did it because of the structure that EOS gave us.
Absolutely. You put structure in, you put the processes, you knew exactly where you were steering the ship. It's not just like in the dark, but you know exactly where you're going and you got what you wanted. So that is such a success story. Wow. So Brooke, if people want to know more about you, reach out to you either as a CFO or EOS implementer, how can they reach you?
I am easy to find. And the fastest way is brookelively.com.
Very good. So go there, find out, get connected to Brooke. She's also an amazing speaker. So if you're looking for somebody to come and talk, do speaking engagements, she's absolutely, I heard her twice now, and she is an incredible speaker and very engaging. And the topics are very, very relevant to entrepreneurs and businesses. So definitely reach out to Brooke. So Brooke, thank you so much for being a guest on this podcast.
Thank you, Adi. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.